Welcome to this edition of the Banner Press Sports Corner. Thanks for tuning in on your preferred platform. I'm Nicholas Hodell, sports writer here at the Brenham Banner Press, and we are back after a very busy holiday season. And on the sports side of things, it makes it even busier than ever. Soccer, bowling, and soon powerlifting join the winter sports lineup in the coming weeks alongside with basketball, which has already been in progress and is well into its district season. Our guest this week is in two of those sports as we have the sophomore goalkeeper of the Brenham Cubs and a member of the Brenham bowling team with its eyes set on making the Texas High School Bowling Club state tournament in March. We're pleased to have Lane Janner in the guest chair to open our 2025 podcast lineup. We're super happy he's made it in studio this week. Thank you so much for popping in.
Well, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And we were talking a little bit ago before pressing the button to get this thing going, just how cold it was at your practice this afternoon. Just how bad was that for you today?
It wasn't too bad. It was, it's again dressed in, sweatpants and a shirt and another shirt underneath it. Again, it was a little windy. The ball was kind of moving every which way, and it kind of, it kind of hurts, catching the ball,
Yeah, of course, we're starting to record this at the start of the week ahead of Thursday and ahead of these guys' home tournament, which we'll get to a little bit later on. But for you, between the posts, it's a very demanding job and a very daunting task as well. Just what's that mindset like for you between the posts?
Oh, it's a lot going through, thinking of which angles to cut off of guys coming at you and trying to go at the right moment to block off the shot, calling your space, and then mainly just working the back line with those guys and communicating back and forth. There's a lot going on.
Yeah, so say you've got like a 2-on-1 attack coming at you. Like, what's kind of the way you try to dissect that in a moment?
Depending on where he's at from the field, you either go or you stay back. And if there's another guy, if one of my guys are chasing him or coming at him, if he's coming at him, I'll just either call it off and I'll get it, run up and get it. Or if it's just the other guy in front of him, I'll sometimes run out in front, depending on, again, where he's at in relation to me and the goal.
Yeah, how important is your communication to the back line in moments like that?
Really, really important. Like, if I'm not talking, which there's instances where I've not been talking in important moments, it'll catch you off guard really fast.
Yeah, and you guys have had a fairly positive start to the season in Madisonville, picking up some wins against Livingston and Magnolia.
And Magnolia's a big one.
Yeah, that's a big one for you guys. Former district opponent and a team who really ended up beating Cleveland twice. The team you guys lost to pretty good, but just how big was that Magnolia win for you guys?
From last year of us losing to them twice, it was pretty big. We were going in. He's like, okay, we could, our best we could do is tie, but Isaac had that goal and Jake had a goal in there, and they had one on this. It was really, really nice to actually come out with a win against them. Yeah, it was not expected at all.
Yeah, and for the trajectory of this program, too, of you guys trying to escape this basement of the district, and I know Magnolia, again, not in the district anymore, up to 6A.
Yep.
But just to be able to prove that you can go really well against some bigger schools, just how big is that for the psyche of you guys going forward?
That's really, compared to last year on all the schools we played, that is probably a good start to start off the season with playing a 6A school and winning from them. I think we can do a lot better this year going on into district.
Yeah, and there was such a fascinating Thursday in that tournament, and I was there seeing both these matches take place. That Magnolia match followed up an early morning loss to Madisonville.
Yeah, that was not expected.
So it was kind of like the reverse of what an expected split would have looked like. Just, what did you guys do between matches to really get your mind off of that Madisonville match and be able to pull off a big victory for you guys?
I think everyone was just still tired being up so early, and it's just getting in that right mindset of after losing to a 4A school, which we should have won. But it's just in the morning. Everyone was not awake. They were not all there. It's just getting them to want to win. It's a lot. In the morning to then playing them, we were not. It was just it was cold. I was not awake.
Yeah, very cold. Very cold. So you guys go on to beat Livingston, then earn that second seed. They go into a semifinal against Cleveland, which obviously did not turn out the way
turn out good at all.
you guys had hoped, and it kind of snowballed on you guys in that first half. Just when games like that snowball on you guys, I mean, how hard is that to kind of eventually try and fight back and to be able to put on a pretty quality second half like you guys were able to do?
Yeah, after we scored that first one that we had a PK on, I think our heads started to turn around and we actually started to challenge them and go at them more and more, even though we were down 5. But we just, after we scored one, we were just going and going and going, trying to get another one. But it didn't turn out as good as we hoped.
Yeah, Aiden Schultz
follow up on that. Yeah,
getting his first high school goal, which is a really big feat for a defender,
especially a defender.
Yeah, in his senior year too, the captain for you guys. And I know you guys probably communicate a lot out there on the pitch. Just how much of a communicator is he out there with the back line and with you?
He's he's very vocal with what he says. He's very loud. It's demanding of what he's saying, and everyone respects him and all of those things. It's a big deal when you're out there.
Yeah, and just kind of, you look back. when you look back at that Cleveland match, those 5 goals that we talked about, they all came within a very quick. Oh yeah, I want to say it was. Yeah, I think it was like maybe 4 of them in like a 10-minute span, probably a little bit less than that. Just when you look back at that match, just kind of what are some of the things that you're looking to do better after that?
Communicate more and go out at full force and just don't stop when they come right to you. I struggle with that here and there, but just keep going and going and going. So we'll try to work on that upcoming games soon.
Yeah, and I think there's important context too for you being a sophomore after having a full season under your belt as a freshman. Just how much have you been able to learn as a freshman, and that to be more communicative out there on the pitch and to be more assertive in there as the goalkeeper?
A lot. It's so much to where we'd be here for an hour. There's so many things that I've done wrong last year that I know not to do this year, including those just what to do in the right moment and everything's leading up. I learned a lot.
Yeah. How much of that has to do with the mindset of when to come out or not? So I've already seen a few times this year, whether it's your guys' games or even on the girls' side, that coming out for a goalkeeper, that's a very pivotal decision for you to make. Just, how much did you learn just in that aspect alone?
A lot, because again, there's a lot to focus on and go on about. Just at the first, I was very nervous and didn't want to do much, didn't want to speak much or anything, just there. Then as you work through and progress, you get more comfortable and more comfortable. You start venturing out, and then you can just trust yourself just to go with it. If you get hurt, you should start trusting yourself to go with it as you do it more and more. Which I still struggle with time to time,
and certainly lapses do happen out there on the pitch, but even back at that Cleveland match, there were moments in that second half they were rattling the bar, rattling the post a little bit. Is
that 3 times they bounced off the post.
Yeah, is that a scary moment for you as a goalkeeper when you hit that post?
When it hits the post and it goes behind you, you don't really know where it's going. Because depending on where it bounced off, so then you just got to find it really quick and just hope that it doesn't go back in.
And that's certainly a tough thing to deal with when you're hearing those clanks going on behind you, that's a very tough thing.
It's good that it hit the post, It's thank God.
Probably more relief than anything, right?
Yeah, but then you got to find it again where it hits off,
Yeah, absolutely. And I think another thing, too, with the communication is the free kicks, especially when you have a 1, 2, 3, how many other men you have building a wall for you on a direct free kick from close in. Just what's the big thing you look to get out of your wall when you kind of communicate with them to kind of go move over to the side, which way? What are you trying to get out of your wall in that particular moment?
Trying to make them cut off one angle I can't really get to. So I put them either, depending on what side of the field is, on the right, so I can hold down mainly the left, so they have a less opportunity of curving it around them to their left. So that leaves me just one little spot to take care of, since they're blocking off an angle that I don't need to be at most of the time.
Yeah.
So kind of a they get one side of the goal and I get the other kind of thing.
Yeah, and just is there a moment where you might ask for another man or two to help out on that wall?
Mm-hmm. Depending on how far out it is, and depending on how many people are back of their opponent or of our opponents coming in. So it varies depending on how far and how many people they got up.
Yeah, so it's all very much a situational kind of thing with that. So just over that first tournament, just how much did you guys learn about yourselves as you guys enter your home tournament coming up and then the district season after that?
We've improved definitely a lot from last year to this year. So we're thinking, we can do pretty good in this Brenham tournament and then through on district. So we've got pretty high hopes for this season. Yeah, coming off of 2 games and like 2-1 games.
Yeah, I remember,
especially against Magnolia.
Oh, yeah,
that's a big one.
Yeah, that was a huge one for you guys. Remember, right? A lot of local teams coming in with Belleville, Giddings, coming in, and some more 4A schools within that bunch. And what's going to be the mindset going into those, knowing that it is a 4A opponent and you've already lost to one this year, so you better not lose to another one, especially the local ones like that.
Yeah. Just keep going. Don't, even if it's a 4A school, don't stop. Don't hold back. Just keep going and keep going. Just everything you got, put it out there on the field for the next 80 minutes. No matter what size school it is.
Right.
Just try your hardest. If we're down by 4 or 5, oh well, just keep going. Just keep going. If we score 1, then that's good. Try harder, and just try to build that up and keep going.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, these are all non-district games, so they don't necessarily count for against you as far as the playoff race is concerned. When we get to that later on in January and then through February and early on into March, what's going to be the key to kind of sustaining some of this momentum you're building now? And to keep that going in the district play, maybe get a few wins and maybe make it interesting for you guys later on in the year.
Just more communication, more practicing, more figuring out where everyone's going to be at the time that they need to be. Just really more communication, because we're lacking a little bit here and there, but just figuring out where everyone's going to be at that time where they need to be, pulling back or pushing forward. Just try to move the ball up the field more.
Yeah, and how much does it help, too, that you have so many of you guys back for another year compared to last year's team? And just, how much does that help you guys out as far as the chemistry part of it, especially for you in year 2?
It's the longer you're with them, the more you learn about them, and it's really nice when you're your second year going into it and you finally learn some more things about people that you're playing with, and it's really nice. You can joke around and you can kind of, where they're going to be, they know where you're going to be, and you can kind of help each other out and get frustrated at each other sometimes too.
I'm sure you work all that out, right?
Oh, yeah.
Right. We have Brenham sophomore goalkeeper Lane Jenner with us on the Banner Press Sports Corner this week, and we're going to be transitioning from the soccer part of it to the bowling part of it. And we see multi-sport athletes all the time, very common. Especially in the bigger schools, though, multi-sport in the same season, that's a different kind of story right there. Just how hard is that to manage, kind of working hard as you do in soccer and also trying to keep up the bowling part at the same time?
Between practices ending and starting at the same time, it's not too terribly hard, and it's a lot easier and smoother than I thought it'd be. Going into soccer, having games during the week in school, but also having games on bowling during the week in school. But bowling is more of a weekend kind of deal, and soccer you can kind of manage during the week. So like after practice, you go over to bowling practice, and so that starts at like 5:30, which we end soccer around there. So it's a lot easier than I thought it'd be, managing the both, that it's relatively all follows in its own little time.
Yeah, but it does create a huge time commitment to both of those. Yeah. So that I tip my cap for you on that. And with the bowling side of it, and all three of you triplets, Wyatt and Reed as well, you guys all bowl together. How nice is that to have your brothers right beside you?
It's really fun. I enjoy it a lot because you can joke around with them. It's really fun. It's hard to explain how much fun it is being with them, to joke around with them, mess around with them, kind of poke at them a little bit, but also hyping them up when they do really good. It's it's ungodly amount of fun.
Yeah, I'll tell you what's no joking matter. The competition between you three, it is
It's big.
Yeah, it's something to behold, and especially last year, you and Wyatt were right down to it for the last individual qualification spot, and Wyatt got you by a couple of pins a year ago.
3, I think.
Yeah, 161 to 159 in that season average, and that came down to the very last week of the regular season a year ago. Just does Wyatt kind of poke fun at you a little bit still for that, or?
I normally do it to him, saying that I'm going to beat him this year and I'm going to take the individual spot. But it's kind of more of me going at him. He doesn't. Every now and then, he'll kind of go at it a little bit, but more mainly me because I lost to him.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try to poke at him, make him try to beat him.
Yeah, and just looking at all the numbers from last year. I mean, Wyatt had a really impressive second to last week in the regular season. That
he did really good last year.
Yeah, 237 and a 201 in his individuals. That was outstanding stuff from him. Yes. You had a couple of relatively poor games in the 110s. That really cost you out in the regular season race. Just what's it really going to take for this year to kind of limit those bad games and to see you move up into that top 3 and earn the individual spot at regionals?
Just slow down, focus on what you're throwing at, and it's just get out of my head mainly because I get it's frustrating a lot. So when you start missing your mark and you're hooking everything left or right or whatnot, just mainly picking a target, throwing it there, focusing on what you need to do, and just go with it. Just don't think about it. Just go with it. Which I've really struggled with the past year and now. Mm-hmm. So
how much of bowling is mental for you?
90% of it. 90% of it is mental for me. Just walking up there and throwing the ball. That's anybody could do that. It's just going through and where you need to throw it and move to where you need to move. It's all that is very important, and it's really a mind game. Yeah, probably just finding your own mark and making sure everything's the way you want it. Just I mean, kind of between the strike ball you have and the spare ball that you have. Just what's been the thing you've been working on a lot in the summer and the fall and the build up to this season? Trying to get a strike ball, trying to find that sweet spot into the pocket, trying to figure out where I need to throw it and stand, and just try to hook it into where I need it to be. Not necessarily much spare ball because I can't really get a strike without, figuring out how to throw a strike. But probably a spare ball I need to work on more if I can't figure out how to throw a strike.
Yeah, probably take those one step at a time, I imagine. But one of the other things that really strikes me too is that the regular season for you guys this year does start a little later than it did a year ago. Last year you guys had 3 weeks prior to the new year, and this year you guys are basically starting out fresh in the new year, and when you only have until mid-February, that's cutting off almost half of your regular season. Just as far as the individual race is concerned, maybe not necessarily the team race, but individually, does that create a little more pressure to make sure every game is as good as you can make it?
Not really, because you're playing less games, so your scores, they matter, but they won't. You got to do better and better because your scores, the numbers will start to go down and down the worse you do. So it's a little bit, but not as much because it's happening faster. But you still want to try to do your best,
Yeah. Just, I mean, how much did watching Wyatt compete at regionals kind of motivate you to try and get to that stage yourself?
It did a lot, I could have been there if I was just a couple more pins better on this game or that game. I really wanted to be in that individual spot. Yeah,
and really, and the team aspect of regionals too was an incredible atmosphere. And I know for my first time being in that kind of spot, that was like eye-opening to kind of see how crazy it is in the high school bowling scene. I mean, what was that kind of eye-opening experience like for you the first time at regionals?
It was very chaotic, but you also see what kind of competition you're going up, so you need to see what you're prepared for. So you see what you're going up against, you can kind of relate that to your scores and how good you need to do or how much you need to focus on it. It's just finding out where you need to be and just aiming for a mark or a goal you set to kind of compete with those guys.
What was that goal that you were looking to accomplish this year after going through the regional experience?
Probably maybe average about 180 or so, but it's up there quite a bit. It's a lot of work to get there, coming off of like a 160 something.
Yeah, and especially 180s. I really, just looking through the numbers, had that 185 as your high, and then a lot of scores in the 170s and 160s. So getting the consistency up, I mean, that's a pretty big target.
Consistency is another big thing.
Yeah, and it's funny that we mentioned that consistency part of it. And taking in one of your practice sessions this past Sunday, and I think you were kind of struggling with that a little bit.
Very much.
Yeah, is that also kind of a mental thing to just keep going through?
Yeah, coming off of a very low score, and then playing the next game, that's a hard thing to do after you lost or did really bad your first game. To try to do better and better and better, even though you're still hooking it or not throwing it where you're supposed to be. It's very challenging.
Yeah, and from a team perspective too, because the team Baker games makes up a majority of that regional mark to propel you as a team to state. How much have you guys been working on your Baker games in the lead up to this season, and just the improvements you need to make there?
We haven't done too many, but we've done, again, quite a few. We've done one at least every practice we go to, which we're averaging about probably 160s or so, which is pretty good for us, coming off of last year, which was not good.
Yeah. Just, I mean, what's been the biggest talking point that you guys have had with Coach Michael Groves and kind of building up those Baker game scores more?
Just everyone needs to figure out what they're supposed to be throwing and where they need to be. Just communicating, having fun, just making sure everyone does what they need to do in that frame leading up to hopefully around a 200 average roughly.
Yeah, and you guys really only have like 2 frames to contribute to the bunch. I mean, is the mindset any different for you individually when the Baker games compared to an individual game?
It's probably easier because you're more relaxed in a Baker game than an individual, because you only got 2 frames that you got to bowl against or bowl with. I'd say Baker games are probably easier to bowl with. You've got other people in there too, but you also got to rely on them to make good throws and hopefully get a strike or a spare.
Yeah, and make sure you do your part too.
Yeah, your part is very important too.
Yeah, that's also very important. And obviously, you guys' regional is a challenging one with a lot of those Katy schools really in there, and of course KDISD, they don't mess around with anything over there in Katy. Just seeing that level of competition, just how much is that fueling you guys for this year to improve your scores and get back there with a shot at making state?
From seeing it last year, from our first time going, we didn't realize we were going up against, just because we've never really been out there to district or state, I guess. We've went and watched games, our team going to state a couple years ago, but this last year it was a step up from that. We didn't realize what we were getting into, so now we see what we got to get to, and we know we got to work hard to get to it.
Yeah, and I'm sure just being actually participating in that spotlight's a big difference from just watching.
It is eye opener for sure. Just being there and actually playing in it than rather sitting and watching.
Yeah, and of course, I mean that's a completely different step.
Yeah,
there beyond the blue tape or whatever color tape they decided to use to mark it off. So obviously a huge step there, and being a sophomore now and really mixing in both sports, just having that year of experience. I mean, how much has it really helped you out this year? Kind of figure that stuff out mentally from a confidence standpoint that you can go out and improve upon your freshman year performances?
I'd say my confidence has gotten pretty good compared to last year in both sports. Soccer, mostly in soccer. And now that people will respect you as you get better and better and play with them more and more and communicate. Bowling, it's been doing it longer than high school years, so it's kind of been the same throughout. There's not a whole lot into it.
Yeah. How many years been doing the bowling now?
Probably about 8 or so. Whew. 7 or 8.
That's a pretty significant chunk of your life right there. Yeah, nearly half your life right there. Mm-hmm. So, and I would imagine that experience also really helps you out.
Yeah, it does. Just after so many years of throwing, you kind of you can work on yourself and figure out where you need to do it, and not worry about anything else, you know.
Yeah, and as we begin to kind of wrap things up here, little birdie told me you really like your trucks a whole lot. I mean, what's kind of the ideal truck that you have in mind when you kind of think about your future?
Oh, probably a 2006 6.0 F250 or 350 King Ranch. If it's a 350, a flatbed with skirted sides, bulletproofed, probably a straight pipe 5-inch turbo back. Put a tune on it. Maybe level it out with 2-inch leveling kit. I say it's pretty good.
We could be here for a whole hour trying to walk all through every single one of those steps. Yeah, but I mean, just overall, just what kind of makes all of those details so important in your ideal truck?
The looks. It's just from what I gain a happiness of looking at it and actually doing it and making it happen. It's just very, very nice for me to do.
Yeah,
you know, it's.
Yeah, of course, the Brenham soccer team, they do have that Brenham tournament this weekend. Really an opportunity for you guys to play at home after having that first tournament on the road. So that's an exciting development for you guys. And also the bowling team gets going Sundays, 5 o'clock. You guys will be bowling, I think so.
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, that goes through January and February, and eventually, I want to say it's that first week in March is that regional spot, if I'm not mistaken. So a lot of exciting developments for Elaine. We certainly thank you for joining in to talk about all of that. Before we formally say our goodbyes here this week in the Sports Club, we want to take some time to share the biggest headlines in our latest edition of the Banner Press from our Tuesday edition. There's a whole lot of good stuff in here. Or the annual weather breakdown from our editor, Keith E. Domke, who will be having his Banner Buzz podcast later on this week. And also work beginning on 2 of the city's 7 drainage projects. That report coming from Sarah Forsyth. And a report on the retailers and how they did over the holiday season from reporter Nick Guidry. On the sports side, oh boy, there has been a whole lot of stuff.
Yeah, there's been a lot of things going on.
Yeah, there's been a whole lot of miles being put in my car, that's for sure, between the Brenham basketball teams and their Friday district games, you guys in Madisonville, Brenham soccer, the girls' side of it at home, and also the Brenham basketball teams restarting its district play. And Elijah Ferguson wanted to send a big congratulations to him, 1,000 career points. He hit that milestone at A&M Consolidated, and the Brenham Cubs' first win over Consol in 10 years, by the way. So that's a huge milestone. They're setting all kinds of those right now in the Brenham boys basketball program. To receive the local information that will matter to you, to keep up with Lane, soccer and bowling endeavors, to keep it with the basketball teams and their endeavors, and a whole lot more. Don't forget, that spring sports season is coming up a lot faster than anyone wants to admit it's coming. So to keep up on all of that, you can subscribe to the Banner Press on our website, brenhambanner.com, or you can call 979-836-7956 and let our folks take care of you that way. Again, our website is brenhambanner.com. where you can view all our stories, view all our podcasts, so much more. And you can call 979-836-7956 as well to subscribe. Again, we thank you so much, Lane. Certainly wish you the best of luck in the rest of your sophomore campaign. We will see you next time here on the Banner Press Sports Quarter next week. Have a very good rest of this week, everyone.